wanted to ask a broad question, and you could both take your time with the answer, and it's musically, it's anywhere you want to go with that. And I just wanted to ask, do you think Philadelphia played a role in the history of American music? And if it has, how has it?
Oh, where does one begin? Jerry Blavat. I'm reading his book right now, so I'm thinking about him. I mean, he was enormously influential to the kids that I grew up with. The kids I grew up didn't listen to English music at all. It was all Smokey Robinson, the Miracles, and Temptations. So you have that. You have the Philadelphia Folk Festival, which was an enormously influential thing to folk music and myself, one of the first big festivals. You have an amazing amount of jazz players that came out of the city because of a lot of the clubs. Curtis Institute of Music, Academy of Music, Academy of Vocal Arts. Philly's made an amazing contribution. Hall & Oates. Kevin can probably take it from there.
Well, you know, I mean, Todd Rundgren, obviously, you know, that sort of like blue-eyed soul thing, all of the Philly sound that you know, kind of, you know, started that movement with the Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes and the Stylistics and you know, it's just on and on and on. It's just great stuff. I mean, even someone like Springsteen, while he wasn't really from Philly, we kind of thought of him as our own. You know, I mean, when I remember finding out that he was a national, international star, and everyone was like, "Wait a second, he's ours." You know, he's like South Jersey, Philly. You know, that's that thing. So, music. It's funny because I think that we almost kind of took it for granted that was just sort of the way it was. That there was always music accessible, and that people were playing and people were listening, and that there was great radio, and I don't know if it was like that all over the country.
I know. Can you close? Oh, that is close. I want to just talk about something that's relevant and real new for you. And you just were mentioning something about the British invasion wasn't too much of an influence, but on your new record, you covered a Paul Weller song.
Mm-hmm.
And you've added an element of Philly soul to that, which is pretty cool, I thought.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. That's actually a Philly connection. What happened there was that that track is essentially a live track that we played with Daryl Hall and his band, and we didn't know that song. But when we did this show live from Daryl's house, the deal is you bring a couple of songs. Yes, we played maybe 2 or 3 Bacon Brothers songs. We played. We got to pick one Hall & Oates song or one of Daryl's songs, and then a couple of covers, and everybody just kind of threw some ideas out, and he threw that song out as an idea to us. And the Paul Weller stuff that I knew had a little bit more of a punk, you know, sort of vibe, because he's played a lot of different kinds of music through the years. And I fell in love with that song, and I fell in love with it because it has that sort of funky Philly kind of soulful groove, and I think that's probably why Daryl liked the song.
It's also one of those more background vocals, the better songs, which is, and in that case, what are there, 8 people singing, something like that? So that was really fun. But I think we pretty much learned it the day before, maybe the day of.
Yeah, yeah, that was like seat of our pants.
I really loved it. It's pretty cool. You actually put it on the record.
Yeah, we first of all, we love doing Daryl's show. I mean, there was nothing, and still really isn't anything like that, where you get together a bunch of people and you just play and wing it, and you know, sometimes you know the words, sometimes you don't, and that kind of spontaneity just is pretty rare. And it was so much fun when we did it, and we wanted to, you know, keep a piece of that and bring it into our new CD.
And I was just curious, did you start out as a drummer first?
I started out, I guess the first thing that I played was a little bit of guitar, but then I also really liked the drums, and my parents got me a drum kit, and I never really studied, but I would just go down in the basement and bang away. And I was also playing percussion. So the first thing that I played in a band was percussion. I used to play actually in a band. Well, I played in a band with my brother, but I also played in a band called Footloose, of all things. There was a great Philly soul singer named Chet Brown, who later changed his name to Jet Brown. And
He's changed it back now.
is he back to Chet?
Yeah.
Okay. And he's still, I think he still plays.
Yeah,
out and
he's
stuff.
still around, sure.
Yeah. And we used to all hang out at this place called Togetherness House, which was up in Germantown. And it was kind of like a community house and had music and counseling and all kinds of kind of stuff that I don't even know if you would really find anything like that anymore. And people would just sort of say, "Hey, you want to put a band together?" And so I was able to play percussion in a couple of bands there, and that's what I started with.
And you both attended Settlement Music School, didn't you? For a short time?
Yeah,
Mine was very short.
Yeah, a long, long time ago, and I had lots of friends that went there, so I was there a lot.
It's a pretty amazing school. So I think
It
it's
is.
one of the oldest in the country.
Yeah, it's an
Teaching
amazing
like that.
place.
Because I remember you guys came back for the 100th celebration, I think, at the Northeast Airport.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing I was curious about, was it that you two of you came together and came back to Philadelphia and did the benefit song for the Mummers? Was that something you instigated yourself?
Well, we did. We were brought up in the Mummers. Our father was not a mummer. Our mother's family were not mummers, but we were just, it was part of our childhood. And when the budget cuts in Philadelphia seemed to be threatening, it just seemed like we wanted to try to do something about it. And like most collaborations, they're good for both parties. We also had a song that Kevin wrote called New Year's Day, which was a song about a kid that moves to California from Philly, and it's, to become an actor or a singer or whatever, and it doesn't go well, so he dreams of going back to Philly and marching in the Mummers Parade again, as he did in his childhood. So we kind of collaborated with the Mummers, and we did a recording of the song with about 25 hand-picked mummers, sort of all-star band of mummers, and Bunny Sigler, who's, as most people know, is a legendary Philadelphia soul singer. And we did a video and an audio. We put the Mummers on our record and released a video, and then we did a benefit concert down at the Electric Factory with the Mummers, and tried to raise as much money as we possibly could. And luckily, maybe not because of what we did, but somehow the Mummers Parade is still going strong, and we're really proud of that collaboration with them.
I mean, it was a great project that you did. I was there for that thing. It was pretty amazing.
It was a lot of fun and very rewarding, and musically, we played with about 5 or 6 mummers for about a year after that. They'd come to our live gigs and play, and they're phenomenal musicians. And they have a kind of a sound, and I never was sure whether we could integrate our sound and their sound, but I feel, in terms of a musical challenge, that it was very successful and it worked out really well. I'm very proud of the record.
The logo was pretty nice too. I like
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
And that's interesting. The title song called 36 Cents, you also have that you struck with the Mummers in part. And
Yeah, the Mummers are in that one, yep. They pop up all over in our songs.
Well, you play banjo too, correct?
Yeah, that was my first instrument on the folk side. I started as a cellist and then banjo. I always had sort of a classical music part and a folk and rock music, so banjo was my first instrument, yeah.
And I know for you, Michael, the Electric Factory was part of your early career, and I'm not sure if you ever got to go there, but I did see you there with Good News quite a few times.
Yeah, and Kevin had a big presence in the Electric Factory too.
I grew up in the Electric Factory, literally. I started going to the Electric Factory when I was 6 years old because the owner of the Electric Factory was my best friend's father, and he moved around the corner from me when I was 6, and we were inseparable, and that was like a playground to us. So we saw all kinds of crazy people playing there, Janis Joplin, met her backstage, that kind of thing. And then when the factory closed and they kept doing the stadium concerts, that was that was kind of a shift, I think, in rock music. The stadium shows were pretty limited to basically the Beatles, for a long time. And then at that point, we started going to the Spectrum, I don't know, at least once a month to see some act. So I was really lucky in that way because I was, not really a child of the '60s, but I, as a very young kid, was able to really experience it.
It was a pretty amazing time. It was a lot different than today.
Sure.
It was a lot more innocence, I guess, too.
Mm-hmm.
Where today it's a little bit different. The other thing I wanted to mention was about the tune "Kiss Your Mother."
Mm-hmm.
To me, maybe I'm picking up something different. But it kind of reminded me of like a bit of a Hendrix kind of a intro kind of a thing.
Yeah, it was. I was thinking Hendrix for sure. It's a strange little thing. I mean, we put stuff on this record that we were kind of digging into the coffers because we felt like we didn't want to put out a 6-song CD. So we decided to go back and think about other things that we've recorded, and it was actually a pretty good exercise because we found some cool things that you sort of reject. And "Kiss Your Mother," is the songs. I only wrote a verse and a chorus because I had envisioned it as a theme song for a television show that my wife was doing. She had a very, very short-lived sitcom that was called "Talk to Me," and it was kind of like a female Howard Stern. Was kind of the idea of it, and so I was thinking, you kiss your mother with that mouth, that she was going to be this foul mouth kind of character, and so I just kind of thought about that kind of right now, this stuff to the Hendrixy sort of lick, and then we actually recorded that song once in one take
With one microphone.
with one microphone,
Yeah.
and
U-47 on circular in the middle of the room.
and you put the drums back far enough so that they're not overwhelming the track, and I'm telling you, I love the way that sounds. I mean, that's one of my favorite sounding things.
Yeah, it was a good day.
We just said, well, let's throw that up there.
Yeah, I was wondering how it was done because I was thinking, it's almost like they took a cassette recording of a rhythm track and did a vocal over top of it or something like that.
No, it's very garagey. It's one microphone.
Pretty cool. I like that a lot.
Thanks.
I like the sound. There's a lot of cool sounds on the record. I know you work with a couple different people with some of the mixing
Yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all over the place, like most of our records.
Like most of our records, it has no consistency whatsoever.
But it's almost like Philadelphia because it's a city of such a diverse ethnic background too.
Well, I would say that's a big part of why we write and why our band is sort of the way it is because, we didn't just kind of grow up with one sort of. I mean, our first record as a joke was called Foro Soco, which stands for Folk Rock Soul Country. And while I don't know that there's that much country music in Philadelphia, there certainly is folk and rock and soul. Those are all really, really part of it. And then we sort of, Michael moved down to Nashville, and that's where the country element, came in.
I was just curious if you would ever go back and revisit like old material, and I'm thinking something like one of the tunes you did with Good News, and I don't know if the two of you would ever do that, would be like I'll sing this song for you. If you actually played the cello and he did the guitar, the exact opposite of what like Good News was.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I certainly don't think so. I think we revisited a bunch of things that we rejected, and I like to keep the stuff with our band sort of within the confines of both of us, and that's so far back, and so I'm not so sure we would ever do that. But you never know; it's possible.
And I was just curious for the both of you. I mean, being an artist yourself and growing up, you had a father who was very famous. And was it a hindrance to you having that father figure like that, or was it pretty?
We might disagree on this. I don't know. What would you say?
I never really felt that much part of. My father was a really busy guy. He was a wonderful father, but he had this whole career that I never really kind of felt that much of a part of. And so I think that I really went on a completely different direction, but once he got over the fact that I was not going to graduate from college, he got behind it pretty much, and was very encouraging in many, many different ways to me doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it was a hindrance to me. I think, if anything, I got a really, really strong desire to be famous from my father, and that specifically be more famous than my father. Like, that was a definite, whether I was able to voice it or not as a child, that was a definite driving kind of force. And, you know, it was my way of whatever, breaking away, or, you know, I think to a certain extent, you kind of have to, as a man, sort of face off with your father to a certain extent, and your mother too. I think you got to kind of like be able to find your own path and get out from under their shadow. And I think mine was really to become more famous. But I had the same experience as Michael, which is that as self-involved and eccentric and complicated and busy is a very, very good word. As our father was, he was so supportive of pretty much any piece of shit that I did. He loved it. He just would say, "That was the greatest." We joke about it. Stuff. He's been there for a long time. My wife and I still do imitations of him, going, "Oh, Kevin, that was the best show I've ever." For any horrible thing, he just was incredibly supportive. And that was a great quality, especially when you have somebody who's going to become a musician and an actor. And those are two gigs that, it's a long shot at best.
You both succeeded very well. And the awards you've won separately with TV shows and documentaries, it's pretty amazing. And I like the fact that you both come back and support Philadelphia in a lot of different projects. And I thought what was really interesting for you that you had that program, the 6thDegree.org, and helping people. I think that was really pretty amazing that you did that.
Thanks.
And it was probably a difficult thing to go through, having people follow you around with this game all the time. It must have been odd.
Yeah, there's worse things. Yeah.
And I was just curious, what was the first record you ever bought?
The first one I bought was Sgt. Pepper's. And I think maybe my friend that I was telling you about, and I split it, he has a better memory for that kind of stuff. But I do remember getting it and bringing it back to his house and opening it up, and all the stuff that you could read, and you could even just look at the cover, forever, And then, musically it was, so different, and just such a, it wasn't a group of songs. It was a whole kind of thing, a whole novel, or a whole film, or a whole kind of experience, and if you're a little kid and you're looking at it, obviously you're missing some of the references. And even that being said, there was still something that...
I'm still missing some of them.
Yeah. There were still things about it that even, I was many years away from having done drugs, but there was still something about it that I found sort of trippy, I don't really know why. So that was the first one for me.
I think I was in a jug band with our sister Hilda. And at the time, there was a band called the Jim Kweskin Jug Band. And when you're a child, you absorb things much. I was reading something recently where children, their lives are in color, and as we get older and smarter, and it sort of becomes black and white. But I think that was the first time I really idolized somebody. But before that, I did get a postcard from Pete Seeger, and I ordered his banjo book for $250, which he said, if you want to keep it, you can send me the $250. And I still have that. So that was a big, because I was a huge Pete Seeger fan, and the fact that he actually wrote me a postcard and sold me his banjo book that was life-changing to me.
When's the new record due out?
We're
about 6 months ago, something like that.
We're chipping away at it. I mean, let's put it this way: it's done.
Credits are done, the cover's done.
Yeah, the cover's done. We haven't really packaged it yet, but I guess we're in that process.
Well, everything is done. We're kind of deciding on what label to release it on, and to get a few sort of promotional things lined up, and those sorts of things. Everything is done, but most of the time people want a couple of months, to get a running start on it. So I would say maybe at the earliest, maybe about 6 weeks, something like that.
Oh, okay.
But in the meantime, we have this. We got quite a few dates this summer. So what we're trying to do is work the new songs into the set, and be able to, start playing them, put them out there.
Will you be doing that tonight?
Well, we have a lot of stuff already in the set from the new record, and we're going to try to get a couple more.
Yeah, that's our job. I mean, we're playing 3 nights in a row in D.C., which is a great opportunity to, be everybody together in the same city for a couple of days. So we should be able to cobble it all together for the set.
And one last question: are the two of you involved with anything where you trying to help keep the music in the schools with younger?
Boy, I wish I did more with that, because I'm teaching now at college level film scoring, and one of the things that I find really appalling is my students who are now 18, 19, 20, the youngest ones, their music background is really lacking. And when we grew up in the Philadelphia public school system, everybody got an instrument, a teacher for free, an orchestra, and that's pretty much gone. And we did something with VH1 a long time ago, which I thought was a terrific program. I don't know what really happened to it, where they were actually raising money to buy instruments for schools. And something I really believe in. And there have been a lot of research recently that music does a certain thing to your brain that nothing else does. And by the time you're 20, it's kind of too late for that kind of thing. So, if you have any suggestions, let me know.
Are the Grammy people still doing anything with trying to with the Grammy in the schools? Are they still doing that anymore? I'm not sure.
We don't know.
There was that
VH1 had Save the Music.
Save the Music,
Right.
yeah. And there's another program with Mr. somebody's Opus. I've heard.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Mr. Holland's Opus.
Right,
it's called,
correct.
yeah. So I think there are some around, and I wish I did more for it, because I really believe in it.
I think we're pretty cool. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Great, cool, thanks.